I've always loved playing the piano, but I was afraid of disturbing my neighbors. So I decided to find a house just for practicing. Eventually, I rented an apartment in an empty building. No one lived there. It was a pianist's paradise. I could play as much as I wanted. One day, while lost in my music, I suddenly heard a shout. "Oh no, the fourth beat is wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong." I jumped and stopped immediately. Looking around, I saw no one. The balcony window was open, but there was no one outside. I shivered. Hesitantly, I asked, "Is anyone there? Can you help me fix this?" I had been playing piano for 12 years, and everywhere I went, neighbors complained about the noise. Finally, I found a suburban apartment where rent was cheap and no one else lived. At first, I thought it was just an empty building, as the manager joked. But when I moved in, the silence was frightening. The parking lot was empty. No one was around, not even delivery people. I asked the security guard, "Weren't all these apartments sold? Why is it so empty?" The guard smiled calmly. "There's someone living here already." I was shocked. "I don't see anyone." He laughed. "Ghosts don't show themselves." A chill ran through me. "What do you mean?" "Most of these apartments are for storing ashes. Only two people are truly alive, you and me." An apartment for ashes? I thought for a moment, then smiled. Great, no one would ever complain about my piano again. The idea that the neighbors were listening spirits made me laugh. The guard noticed my reaction and said, "Be careful. If anything happens, call the night desk." But for me, practicing piano was my top priority. In a month, there would be an audition for the Dreamweaver theater troupe. I had dreamed of being their pianist since I was little, so I practiced with all my heart. My teacher often said, "Summer Hartwell, you play very well, but you're missing something to reach the top." That something was invisible, intangible, and impossible to describe. My teacher advised me to listen to Edmund Ashford's music. He played with a fiery passion, as if pouring his life into every note. I listened again and again, but Edmund was a legend I could never hope to match. He had been the main pianist of the famous Dreamweaver theater troupe, touring worldwide. Tickets always sold out. He was the ideal of the music world. But geniuses often die young. Edmund had a serious heart condition and ended his life at 26 by jumping from a hotel rooftop. His death left the troupe searching desperately for new talent. This audition was for his famous work, the Dreamweaver Sonata. To avoid disturbing my ghostly neighbors, I played at maximum volume, listening to Edmund's recordings over and over. Night fell, streetlights went out, but my apartment remained lit. I was immersed in the music when suddenly a shout echoed. "Damn it! The fourth beat is wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong." I jumped again. The door was closed, only the balcony window was open. Could there be someone besides the ashes around here? I stepped out onto the balcony, scanning the dark surroundings. "Who's there?" I called. A bird flapped past, and then all was silent. Perhaps I was imagining things. I shut the window and returned to the piano. The fourth beat was perfect. It had to be a hallucination. I shook my head and tried to calm down, continuing to play. A few moments later, the angry voice shouted again. "Even after 100 times, it's wrong. Stop playing." This time, it was clearly a man, as if standing right next to the closed apartment. No one else was there. I shivered and asked, trembling, Who are you?" "Why do you care who I am?" the voice replied, full of irritation. "Listening to you play wrong every day is unbearable. You annoy me to death." That comment made me so angry. I might not be famous, but I had graduated from a well-known music academy and even won an award for excellent graduation work. Who could say I played badly? "If you don't understand, don't talk nonsense," I said into the empty air. "The fourth beat isn't wrong. Do you understand?" There was silence. I smiled a little. Surely just someone pretending, I thought. I turned to continue playing, but as soon as I put my foot on the pedal, the voice spoke again. "If you're not playing wrong, then the music itself is wrong." My heart skipped a beat. I knew the music very well. It couldn't be wrong. But there were some parts I had never played with the emotion of Edmund Ashford, even the fourth beat. Could the score from the Dreamweaver theater troupe be wrong? Suddenly, a sharp ding sounded. The piano played by itself. I hadn't touched any keys, my hands were still in the air. Then, invisible hands started to play a beautiful piece perfectly. It was dreamlike melody. I couldn't see the player, but I could feel every note as if I could see it. The piano gave out strong energy, and every note was full of passion and charm. It was the most amazing music I had ever heard. When it ended, the sound lingered, and then I heard a soft, gentle sigh full of regret. I finally spoke softly. "Are you the one who just played?" I was afraid of saying it loud and disturbing the moment. Unexpectedly, the voice replied angrily, "Are you stupid? I'm a ghost." The words made me shiver. After a short silence, he sighed sadly, "Yes, I am a ghost." I didn't expect a ghost to know how to play the piano. I reached out to touch him, but I couldn't. "Are you afraid?" he asked. "No," I said. "Do you think you can trick a ghost?" he said. He really thought he was just an ordinary ghost. I should have been scared, but the memory of him playing dreamlike melody filled my heart with excitement. I was so amazed that I didn't feel fear. "That was amazing," I said. "Could you teach me a little?" His music felt like a beautiful dream I didn't want to wake from. Even as a ghost, he had strong life and energy. "Why do you keep practicing this piece?" he asked. "It's for the audition at the Dreamweaver Theater Troupe," I replied. He laughed lightly, a little rude. "Play it again. If you still don't hear your mistakes, I suggest you quit and go back to where you belong." I ignored his words, held my breath, and focused on every note. Finally, I understood the music. Yes, there were small mistakes, parts missing the feeling needed to make it perfect. Only Edmund Ashford had played it that well before. I wanted to clap when I finished, but he interrupted coldly. "A musician's hands are for playing, not clapping." He was really a hot-tempered ghost. "Play it again," he said. I took a deep breath and imagined how he played. His presence was so strong that it was easy to be amazed. This time, when I played dreamlike melody, it felt new and full of life from my fingertips. I had never played so well. My fingers felt like they had electricity, and my heart beat faster than ever, like I was in a dream. When the last note faded, the room fell into silence again. There was no applause, not that I could hear any, but he wouldn't clap anyway. He once said that hands were meant for playing music, not clapping. Gathering my courage, I asked, "Are you Edmund Ashford?" There was no answer. "Hey, master, did you leave already?" It seemed he really was gone. I touched my fingertips. It felt like waking from a beautiful dream. The next day at school, my teacher was surprised and happy, saying I had suddenly improved a lot, and that my chance of passing the Dreamweaver Theater Troupe audition had grown. All night, I kept thinking about it. I was almost sure the hot-tempered ghost was Edmund Ashford. I searched for many of his performances online and found that the ghost's playing style was exactly the same. Edmund had always been mysterious and rarely appeared in public. His soft, slow voice made it hard to recognize him. But music could not lie, and Edmund really had died. Even stranger, the apartment I rented was next to the room that held his ashes. When I returned home, I saw the security guard dozing off. I woke him and asked who owned apartment 502. He yawned, checked his book, and answered, "Ashford." I almost jumped from excitement. The security guard looked at me like I was sick. Maybe I was, but who cared? Summer Hartwell was lucky enough to be taught by Edmund Ashford himself, even though he had died half a year ago. What a strange fate. There were only 2 apartments on each floor. I lived in 501. Edmund was in 502. What unbelievable luck. Back home, I went to the door of 502 and knocked softly. "Edmund, thank you." No response. Then I remembered it was still daytime. He probably couldn't appear yet. I took out a sticky note and wrote 3 words, "Thank you, Edmund." After thinking for a moment, I added, "Can we meet again tonight?" Then I slid the note under the door. That night, I practiced with more excitement than ever. Knowing Edmund might be somewhere listening gave me energy. After finishing each piece, I called out softly, "Are you here? Did I improve? Edmund, I know it's you. Come out, you hot-tempered ghost, are you listening?" I tried to sense any movement in the air, wishing I could see spirits. But even if I couldn't see him, it didn't matter. He was Edmund Ashford after all. Genius always had their own style. I fell asleep sadly that night, and he didn't appear in my dreams. The next morning, birds woke me. Soft sunlight filled my room, warm and bright, chasing away the cold feeling of living next to ashes. Still half asleep in my cartoon pajamas, I noticed a note on the piano. It was the sticky note I had slipped under 502. "Thank you. Can we meet tonight?" Seeing my own handwriting, I laughed at myself. So he had come while I was asleep just to return it. Was this his way of refusing? Feeling disappointed, I threw the note into the trash. Fine, it wasn't a big deal. If he wanted to stay lonely even after death, that was his choice. But then I noticed something on the back of the note. I dug it out again. On the back were 3 words written in a sharp, annoyed hand, not improved. He wrote that. So he really listened last night, but why didn't he appear? Did he not want to talk to me? Fine. I wouldn't call him a hot-tempered ghost anymore. I looked into the empty air and said, I'll call you Master Ashford from now on. Whether you're here or not, I know you can hear me. Even though Master Ashford didn't show up for the next 3 nights, he still guided me. Every day I slipped a note under 502, and every morning I found a new note on my piano. On the back were short instructions, simple but precious. Edmund Ashford, you really are a strange ghost. Or maybe you just wanted a student from the living world to keep you company. Because of him, I practiced harder than ever, determined not to let him down. That night I played dreamlike melody with all my strength and emotion. Watching the curtain move gently, I somehow felt he was there. Master Ashford, my teacher said I'm already 7 parts like you. Do you know you're here? Why don't you appear? Should I burn some paper money for you? No, that's too ordinary. Maybe I'll make a paper piano for you. A deep, angry growl sounded. Finally, he appeared, not too early, not too late. I had almost made a paper piano for him, but he showed up very angry. Master Ashford, who's Master Ashford? He interrupted me in his gloomy, ghostly voice. My head felt frozen. I didn't know how to address him. I wondered, would calling him by name be disrespectful? Calling him hot-tempered ghost was very polite. He heard everything. I forced a smile. I had been anxious, waiting for him to appear, only wanting to call him out. Do I have to appear just because you call me? He said, putting pressure with his words. But knowing it was Edmund Ashford, a god in the music world, I couldn't help but be humble. I wanted to thank him directly, but he didn't appear. I thought of burning some paper or giving him something. He sighed and said, Don't worry about who I am. You don't need to thank me, just practice well. Reach your dream. Let the world feel your music. That is what makes a real musician. Even though his voice was a little cold, I felt sincerity in every word. Beneath his rough words was care. He wasn't just a music god, he was a teacher, strict but thoughtful. I felt happy. I understand. Thank you, Master. This time, he didn't reply with a tricky question. He only snorted and said, 7 parts like Ashford. What kind of teacher did you find? That's ordinary. But you want to join the Dreamweaver theater troupe and everyone hopes for a new Ashford. Huh. Why be another Ashford? Just be yourself. Play your own music. Left hand, more strength. He turned the page of the score and the keys lightly vibrated as he began to play for me. I secretly recorded him with my phone. That night he taught me patiently, and I absorbed every note like a sponge, trying to take in all the talent he had left behind. I'll go now, he said for the first time politely. See you, Master. I waved to the empty air, feeling that he was still there. You hot-tempered ghost, he replied from afar. Who allowed you? I ran to apartment 502 and didn't want to close the door. I stayed there until the hallway lights turned off. The world became so quiet I could only hear my own breathing. I declared that this hot-tempered ghost was the most lovable ghost in the world. Before sleeping, I put on my headphones and played the recording. It was a unique piece, glorious and precious, only mine to hear. This time, when I listened to Edmund Ashford's dreamlike melody, it wasn't bright and lively like before. It carried anger, strength, and a desire to overcome darkness to find light. Half a year in the spirit world had changed his mood. Since I called him a hot-tempered ghost, our relationship seemed closer. He told me to buy a wind chime. Whenever he appeared or disappeared, it would ring. He also said I shouldn't hide under the blanket while changing clothes. I blushed. He discovered even that secret. I asked him about the other spirits. The ashes are ashes, the ghosts are ghosts, he said. Only I can freely enter your apartment. Why? I won't explain. Don't be curious about ghosts. Just focus on your music. He didn't talk much about himself, but cared about my audition for the Dreamweaver theater troupe. At first, he only guided me a little, then gradually helped design my entire performance, even adjusting my optional piece. He asked, What does your teacher think? This piece doesn't show your strengths. Then he chose a much harder piece and played it himself for me to learn. His playing reached the highest level. I couldn't help but sigh. This old piano doesn't deserve your talent. Imagine if you played a Steinway. He just laughed coldly and asked, Do you think the instrument matters more than the player? I tried to find the right words. After a pause, he said, I found this first piano in a trash yard. I was surprised. Edmund Ashford, a respected genius, found a piano in the trash. He didn't let me ask more and said roughly, "That doesn't matter. What matters is playing this piano with all your ability." Under his guidance, I improved quickly. My teacher was amazed, saying I had discovered something new. Even when I changed my optional piece before the audition, my teacher only said, "Up to you." The next day was the audition. This hot-tempered ghost had helped me practice one last time. He left a small osmanthus branch on my piano. Only a few petals fell. He clearly wanted me to reach for the moon. I didn't ask him, focusing on the audition instead. The audition was at the Dreamweaver Theater Troupe's main theater. 20-some people had passed the preliminaries. Everyone in the backstage area was nervous, wearing beautiful and elegant outfits. I wore a white shirt and a dark blue skirt, simple and almost out of place. I didn't have money for a fancy dress, but touching the osmanthus branch reminded me that I had Edmund Ashford's blessing. My back straightened, full of confidence. Finally, it was my turn. I pushed the door to the stage, and a bright, hot light flooded in, highlighting the Steinway grand piano, the piano Edmund Ashford had once played. At the door, a staff member asked to see my ID and audition notice. I reached into my bag, but it was empty. I was sure I had put them in the pocket. Cold sweat ran down my back. I turned my bag upside down, dumping everything out. Only a few small items and the osmanthus branch fell out, no papers. I had lost my documents. Without them, I couldn't audition. The staff shook his head politely. "You've passed the first 2 rounds, so the judges probably recognize you, but rules are rules." I pleaded, "Please let me audition first. I'll provide the documents afterward." He called the next contestant backstage. A beautiful girl in a golden gown slid past, handed over her papers, and walked into the light. She approached the Steinway piano and sat down. The door closed softly, separating the bright stage from me, left outside. I couldn't accept that she might play better than me. I knew I could perform Dreamlike Melody far more beautifully. The frustration overwhelmed me, and tears started to fall. I ignored the tissue the staff handed me, hiding my face in my hands, and ran to a dark corner. Leaning against an old piano, I cried. This had been my dream since childhood. The years of effort, my parents' sacrifices, my teacher's guidance, and Edmund Ashford's patient instruction. Everything seemed lost because of a foolish mistake. Then I realized the piano backstage might give me a chance. I opened the dusty cover. Some dust flew up, making me sneeze. It was also a Steinway. I tried the keys, they worked, even if slightly out of tune. I took a deep breath. Even if I couldn't audition for the Dreamweaver Theater Troupe officially, I would let the judges hear my music. I didn't need sheet music. All I needed was the music itself. I played Dreamlike Melody as powerfully and beautifully as I could, pouring all my emotions, the frustration, the longing into the sound, hoping it would reach the outside world. I didn't notice when the door opened behind me. When the piece ended, I collapsed, exhausted, crying. Suddenly, warm light flooded the room from above, surrounding me and the piano. Applause cut through my sobs. I turned and saw the judges standing in the doorway, clapping. Edmund had once said a musician's hands are for playing, not applause, but now everyone loved the music I had created. The first to stand was Theodore Ashford, a great figure in the music world, founder of the Dreamweaver Theater Troupe and Edmund's grandfather. "Continue your performance," he said. Did this mean they were letting me audition after all? I nodded, beginning to play the piece Edmund had chosen for me. I felt a strange sensation. The competition had gone beyond its original meaning. Edmund wasn't here, but his presence seemed to surround me. Every note carried the deep, subtle emotions he had taught me. When I finished, there was silence. Theodore's eyes burned with intensity. No one dared to clap. Then he said, "You've been chosen." Thunderous applause erupted. I was ecstatic. "What about my papers? Are they a problem?" I asked. The judges laughed. "You're accepted. Submit the documents later." I spun around, filled with joy, and gently closed the piano lid. I saw the girl from apartment 52, the same elegant French curls and pointed heels, but I only smiled and nodded at her. Tomorrow, I would begin practicing with the troupe. A breeze carried the fragrance of the osmanthus branch Edmund had given me. Even though some petals had fallen, it still smelled sweeter than a full tree. Theodore Ashford approached. "You almost missed the audition." I thanked him. "I only found the old piano backstage," he said. In the past rounds, you weren't outstanding, but in a month, you've transformed into someone else. I admitted it was because of my hard work. And your teacher? He asked. Edmund Ashford, I said. My heart pounded. Theodore looked at me for a long moment and said, He's the one you remind me of. I knew then that I had been accepted into the Dreamweaver theater troupe, all thanks to Edmund Ashford, my hot-tempered ghost mentor. On my way out, the security guard at the gate stared at me in shock, seeing me play Dreamlike Melody. I quickly explained it was just a recording. Back home, I opened the door, shouting, Edmund, I passed. The piano stopped immediately. Then I saw my ID and audition notice lying on the table. How had they gotten there? I realized Edmund had taken them earlier, but he hadn't wanted me to fail. Are you happy? He asked, not sounding very excited. Of course I'm happy. Didn't you help me pass? I said. If I weren't a ghost, he replied, what would you do for me? Strange as the question was. I laughed. I'd do whatever you want. He raised his pinky, and we linked fingers like children. I took the osmanthus branch from my bag, placing it in a water bottle on the piano. Its fragrance filled the room. Even though Edmund had disappeared, I kept practicing diligently. Finally, I stood before the Steinway on stage, though some colleagues were displeased. Clara Ashford, the troupe's principal pianist and Edmund's cousin, mocked me silently, worried I might take her place. But I was ready to follow my own path and play the music I loved, carrying the guidance and blessing of Edmund Ashford with me. I responded firmly, I earned my place here. I deserve to play this piano as much as you do. She only smiled faintly, leaving a sarcastic remark I barely understood, just a faint light. Time passed, and the annual autumn concert of the Dreamweaver theater troupe approached. I asked Theodore Ashford for permission to perform. He smiled and nodded. After all your training, of course you should perform, he said. Then he added, but you are still inexperienced and don't have the fame to attract the audience. You'll be a backup for Clara Ashford. I understood. I was not yet at the level of a genius like Edmund Ashford, nor as celebrated as Clara. Even as a backup, I was grateful and gladly accepted. The backup role meant I could only perform if Clara was too tired or suddenly ill. But when the posters for the autumn concert were released, my name was nowhere to be found. Panic rose in me. I asked Theodore, am I really just the backup? He led me to a dark corner backstage and switched on the overhead light, revealing an old piano. This is your position, he said, smiling. You are not a backup performer. You are a hidden replacement. Clara will perform on stage, but the audience will hear your music from backstage. At first, I felt humiliated. How could anyone play my music and think it was just a faint light? Theodore explained calmly. The piece Dreamlike Melody has special significance. Clara could not fully express it, and the troupe needed a true superstar to restore its fame. I could play the piece well, but I lacked the star power. Seeing my stubbornness, Theodore dropped his friendly tone. You can refuse, but if you do, you'll be expelled from the troupe, and no troupe will ever accept you again. I left in shock, stunned by the weight of his words. Alone in the world, my dream seemed crushed. I sank in the hallway, tears blurring my vision. My dream had become a joke. My identity, my face, even my light were stolen. Suddenly, I remembered apartment 502. Could Edmund Ashford have known? He had taught me so diligently before. When Clara came to see him the next morning, he had stopped me from going. He must know the truth. He didn't want me to live as a mole in the shadows. I pounded on the door, calling, Edmund, I understand now I was only a replacement. I'm sorry for misunderstanding you. Please come out. No answer came. Desperate, I pressed my body against the door. Pain shot through me as the door wouldn't budge. Finally, a key slid through the crack and fell at my feet. The door opened. The room was dark, all windows closed, except for the light from the open door illuminating a small altar. On it was a photo of a stranger, Ethan Forrest. I froze. Everything behind the door was unfamiliar. Then a soft sigh came from a corner. The voice was familiar. I'm not Edmund Ashford, he said. I was relieved. I wasn't disappointed at all. I even felt lucky that this ghost had nothing to do with Edmund. I am Ethan Forrest, he said. I was amazed. Ethan was the true performer I had been hearing all along. He had been famous from a young age, but after 22, he stopped touring and only performed on the Dreamweaver theater troupe stage. Everyone assumed Edmund Ashford's later refined style was his own, But it was Ethan who had secretly trained day and night, sacrificing his life and light, playing from backstage so Edmund could appear as the genius. Ethan had become the real star, enchanting audiences, giving them golden dreams in every performance. Ethan slowly told me his story. As a child, he was poor and found a toy piano, which revealed his talent. His parents sacrificed everything for him to study music. At 12, he competed with Edmund Ashford and won first place, the only time Edmund didn't win. Soon after, a car accident killed his father and left his mother in a coma. Theodore Ashford took him in, treating him like family, while he carried the weight of responsibility and nearly gave up his musical dreams. When Edmund developed a hereditary hand condition that would end his career, Ethan agreed to be his secret replacement. He trained endlessly, performing in the shadows, sacrificing sunlight, health, and his own fame. Every time he played, it felt as if he was draining his life. Over the years, he grew thin, sleepless, and exhausted, but he never complained, only ensuring the world saw Edmund's genius, not his own. I realized then that all this time, I had been surrounded by invisible sacrifice and secret genius. Ethan Forrest was the one behind the music, not Edmund Ashford. My admiration and gratitude deepened, knowing the light of dreamlike melody had been Ethan's all along. Ethan Forrest began to fear daylight, even sealing all the curtains in his room. A single ray of morning sun would make him shiver. He could only play the piano and imagine the light, the starry sky, the ocean, the mountains, his parents, and a world that still cared for him. He performed every day backstage for 4 years, until one day he visited the nursing home and discovered his mother had passed away a month earlier. To keep him focused as Edmund Ashford's secret replacement, Theodore Ashford had hidden the truth from him, even preventing him from seeing his mother one last time. Ethan completely broke down after a fierce argument with the Ashford family. He ran out into the glaring sunlight, disoriented, and a blinding light made him stumble into the street. A screeching brake rang out, ending the nameless life of Ethan Forrest. I opened my arms as he cried, feeling his head rest against me. His cold eyes contrasted with the warmth of his tears. I had once said I would do anything for this restless spirit, even if it meant being shunned in the music world. The next day, I returned to the Dreamweaver theater troupe as usual and told Theodore Ashford that I would accept the role of a replacement, but only with a higher salary. I named a sky-high number. Theodore froze, calling me crazy. I replied, "You chose my life, so this is still cheap. Otherwise, I'll go all the way and see who loses face first. At worst, I'll return to my hometown and open a tea shop." My boldness forced Theodore to concede. The Ashfords were clearly wealthy, money that weighed heavily on their conscience. The 3-day autumn concert sold out every night. I played backstage, replacing Ethan Forrest, whose skill on the piano earned Clara Ashford countless standing ovations. After the final performance, Theodore invited top critics and insiders, confident that I had accepted my fate and had nothing to hide. Indeed, the critics praised Clara endlessly, especially for the final piece, Dreamlike Melody, claiming she had captured the essence of Edmund Ashford's style. During this time, Clara appeared frequently in the media, attending shows, magazines, and even fashion events in Paris. Her attitude toward me shifted from disdain to hostility. One day, she stared at me and asked, "Why are you still here?" I calmly replied, "My grandfather paid enough to buy a spacious apartment in the city center. I enjoy living with Ethan Forrest's spirit." Clara looked at me as if I were ill. For the first time, I truly enjoyed sharing life with Ethan. Since learning Ethan's story, I no longer minded his hot temper. Strangely, he became calmer. He began to crave sunlight, and although I could not see him, our relationship grew comfortable and natural. I even bought him a phone. Occasionally, I would receive a message, "What are you doing?" My heart always softened. In my contacts, only one name existed, mine. I told him about the outside world, shared movies, trivial stories, practiced piano together, and sometimes walked late at night. The security guard admired him. "You're not afraid," I laughed. "Humans are sometimes scarier than spirits." Ethan loved telling me about the spirit world, though he admitted he had never met other ghosts. He was awakened by my music, becoming a free soul. He was neither fully alive nor fully dead, existing between two worlds. I listened to his stories about the Ashford family, including Clara and the apartment she bought to store Edmund's belongings. When she visited 502, Ethan would hear her curse him, blaming him for Edmund's death. Edmund had been fragile, physically weak, and depressed. His death haunted her, and the entire Ashford family, fueling her anger at Ethan. One night, Clara came to 502 again, shouting that the poor should accept their fate and that Ethan's death was necessary. She mocked the idea of finding another replacement, revealing that my grandfather had already found one. Ethan clenched his fists but held back. I laughed. Clara's style remained venomous, whether human or ghost. "Why do you accept being her replacement? She doesn't deserve it," Ethan said. I shook my head. "I need money. Once I earn enough, I'll reclaim justice for you, for Summer Hartwell, and for all of us." I planned to produce a piano album in Ethan's name. Recording and promotion required funding. He seemed astonished, and I felt a chill when he moved slightly. "I'll arrange everything. Focus on practicing," he said with trust. For someone who once thought music was unattainable, he now had me as his support. I immersed myself in preparing music, scheduling studios under Ethan's name, and setting up a music platform account. During recording, I closed the curtains, enjoying the private space. Listening to him play the most emotional passages, I couldn't stop my tears. The album was perfect, a final performance from a departed artist, Ethan Forrest. He understood the risks. "You've become the living support. Don't sacrifice too much. Leave yourself a way out." I confidently replied, "If this works, I'll have a new path. If not, I still have a plan B." Meanwhile, the troupe continued rehearsals. Sometimes Theodore looked at me thoughtfully. I teased, "Do I remind you of someone?" He answered coldly, "If they were alive, they would be proud of you." I smiled. Clara, shallow and petty, attempted a romantic surprise at the New Year's Eve concert to regain fame. The stage was set and tickets were scarce. I stood backstage, observing the audience through one-way glass. Veteran musicians, critics, and even Clara's mystery partner were in place. The concert began. Clara played 2 opening pieces to energize the crowd. It was time. With 3 months of experience as Ethan's replacement, I was ready. When Clara raised her hands, I pressed the keys simultaneously. The hall erupted in my sound. But as the first piece ended, I subtly changed the music, twisting it into another melody. From my angle, I saw Clara freeze for a second. She quickly recovered, but sharp-eared audience members noticed the change. I switched again. Clara struggled to follow, and whispers began to ripple through the hall. By now, the audience had noticed something unusual. While the veterans remained calm, everyone else began whispering, sensing that something unexpected was happening. Many raised their phones to record. I felt immense satisfaction. I knew Clara Ashford was probably cursing under her breath, and Theodore Ashford was furious. I wanted to see his face explode with anger. Outside, footsteps approached. The staff had discovered my stunt and tried to stop me. I grabbed the emergency hammer I had prepared, smashed the glass in front of me with all my strength. It shattered into thousands of pieces, scattering across the stage. Screams erupted throughout the theater, even from Clara on stage. I stood in the doorway, now with a clear view of the audience. There was no glass separating us, and the theater sparkled with lights. People in the crowd were shocked. "Look, who is that girl?" All eyes turned toward me. I had suddenly appeared on the stage and spoke. "I am Summer Hartwell, the replacement for Clara Ashford. The piano piece you just heard, Dreamlike Melody, was played by me. The Dreamweaver Theater troupe deceived you all." "The girl is crazy," shouted Theodore, gesturing wildly. Staff rushed toward me, but I raised my voice. "I am not crazy, Theodore Ashford. How could you let everyone hear this music without a classic performance? Someone start a live stream." Cheers and calls to have me perform grew louder and louder, waves of excitement rolling through the theater. Clara panicked, making mistakes, covering her face and fleeing in shame. The audience shouted my name. "Summer Hartwell, play! Summer Hartwell, play!" The host attempted to end the concert, but a man in the front row stopped him. "Let's see who really plays. Isn't it obvious from just a little listening? If she's really causing trouble, call the police." Encouraged, I pushed aside the staff blocking my way, stepped out of the shadows, and walked toward the stage. This was my sacred place, my dream stage since childhood. Each step felt endless, though it was only a short distance. I sat before the piano, determined, and looked at the control room. The technicians had coordinated with me, keeping the stage silent. I felt Ethan Forrest beside me. The glaring lights shone down, the chill from him strengthened my resolve. The music began, filling every corner of the theater. I performed the complete dreamlike melody, and the audience erupted in thunderous applause. Social media exploded. Clara's account was attacked, millions accusing her of deceiving the audience, tarnishing the Ashford family's reputation. Her once brilliant title as piano queen crumbled. Theodore blocked me at the entrance, teeth gritted, eyes blazing. I smiled coldly. His power meant nothing. If the music world had no place for me, I had no regrets. Outside, fans gathered, streaming live as I stepped out. They cheered me for exposing the powerful Ashfords. Every word I spoke climbed trending lists, every expression analyzed. I noticed a young girl in the front row, standing firm despite her heels being crushed. She asked the most important question: "Aren't you afraid of retaliation from the Ashfords?" I smiled, showing her my live stream count, 9,000 viewers. "Don't worry. We'll break 10,000, I said, hopping into a taxi with her following to ensure my safety. This performance, my personal act of revenge, was only the beginning. Next, I would reclaim justice for Ethan Forrest. Introduced myself. I am Summer Hartwell. Since joining the Music Academy, I dreamed of standing on the stage of the Dreamweaver Theater Troupe. This autumn, I competed and won, thinking I would finally shine. But it turned out to be the start of a deception. I slowly recounted my experiences, secretly checking the live stream. The viewer count had surpassed 50,000, and comments poured in: empathy, anger at the Ashfords, ridicule of Clara. Some even criticized me for exposing the truth. I remained calm. Fans realized that after age 22, Edmund Ashford had needed a replacement due to a hereditary condition. Theodore Ashford had found Ethan Forrest, a normal child, to perform in Edmund's place. Once the Ashfords noticed him, he lost his own identity. People online erupted in disbelief, anger, and awe. They learned that after 22, Edmund's performances were mostly replaced, and Ethan had been hidden all along. I felt a strange pain in my chest, but held back tears. Ethan would never truly disappear. His spirit had always been beside me, encouraging me, giving me strength to stand against the world on his behalf. He had not died. He was simply hiding, his voice and music still echoing. A girl watching asked if he was okay. I reassured her. He only wished to live quietly, staying out of the mortal world. I released his album. Anyone interested could listen. It was music that deserved to be remembered. His name, Ethan Forrest, finally gained recognition. I felt his embrace and heard his tears close to me. "Thank you," he seemed to say. I was soaked with his warmth, overcome with emotion. I tried to smile, but I cried too, more than ever that night. Ethan Forrest did not return to apartment 502. In the computer, his album kept repeating, and we played piano together in a space free from all limits, like two mad souls. In the mortal world, we laughed until exhausted, cried until exhausted, and finally I fell asleep in his arms. When I woke, dawn had come. Sunlight streamed through the window, but I realized his arms were gone. If not for the dried tears on my forehead, I might have thought last night was just a dream. Ethan did not reply. The room was terrifyingly silent. A bad feeling rose in my chest. I hurried out, noticing something different. The apartment door was locked, but a chill ran through me, like a firm decision had just passed. Ethan had left me the key long ago. Trembling, I opened apartment 502. The altar was still there. The boy in the photograph, smiling gently as if nothing had happened, still looked at me. "Why won't you answer? Don't go, why are you leaving?" The stillness scared me. Tears fell uncontrollably. "Don't leave me alone here, please." The cold room echoed my cries, bouncing off the walls. I saw his phone neatly placed on the altar. He had truly gone. He had left me alone to face the world. On his phone was a message he never sent. "I tried many times but couldn't show you. My conscious time is short, but I know it's time to end the performance. Thank you for giving me a beautiful comeback and these months with you. I have no regrets. Please bury my ashes next to my parents. I want to rest peacefully. Don't remember me too much. Summer Hartwell, take good care of yourself." I pressed send, hugging the phone and crying bitterly. My fiery ghost was gone. There would be no more arguments, no more teasing. I would take care of myself, but forgetting him? Never. I believed that one day Ethan Forrest and I would meet again somewhere. The Ashfords could not drive me away, and I lived stronger than ever. A month later, I returned to the Dreamweaver Theater Troupe. The board had removed Theodore Ashford as director. The music world was not without justice. The Ashfords had completely lost their influence. I heard Theodore had a breakdown. I was slightly sorry I didn't see it myself, but what I did see was Clara Ashford. She had come to apartment 502 searching for Ethan, only to find an empty altar. She ran to the theater, frantic, her hair dry and tangled, face pale, lifeless, a hollow shell. She screamed, "He's gone." I looked at her calmly. He is gone, but I only helped him reclaim a small part of what was his. Clara glared at me, hissing, "He's dead. How could you release his album? That's a secret." I smiled. Ethan's album was sold at an astronomical price, and I used the money to establish the Ethan Forrest Piano Foundation, helping children in difficult circumstances who dreamed of music. I would never let Ethan truly leave. I am his name, his warmth, his life. I am the tribute to him, the memory cherished by many, the love and gratitude he deserves. I am the one who allows him to rest peacefully beside his parents, with a serene smile on his face.